Hello, everyone. I hope we're all having a great Tuesday. Thanks for attending today's Training Tuesday webinar. We're all back from the World of Concrete in Vegas, and if you joined us last Tuesday, we did a live Training Tuesday from Las Vegas, World of Concrete. That was pretty exciting, but we're back to it in our normal time slot of 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I am Heidi Reese. I'm with Dayton Superior and Simon's Training Department, and I'm excited to be able to provide these short, insightful trainings each week with our product experts. Just for a little bit of housekeeping, we have muted everyone on the call so that there's no disturbances, so we can all listen in and learn some good stuff. You're more than welcome to send any questions that you have throughout the presentation, and at the end we'll have a short mini question-answer session. Just do that through the Zoom functionality in the chat room, and I can go back and forth, ask your question for you, and we'll handle it that way. The presentation is being recorded, so in case you want to follow up later, maybe there's something you wanted to hear again, you can download that through DaytonSuperior.com. You can search on Training Tuesdays, go out there and see past trainings that we've done, as well as on our YouTube channel if you follow us there. So, in today's topic, we're going to hear from, excuse me, the Director of Engineering here at Simon's Dayton Superior, and he's going to be discussing the Simon's DeckFast shoring system. I'm referring to Tyler Shaner, and if you don't know him, he is Dayton Superior's Director of Engineering on the Simon's forming side, and obviously one of our top experts for Simon's. He has a BS in Civil Engineering from Iowa State University and rounds that out with an Executive Master's degree in Business. He's been in the industry for over 27 years and is a very, very fantastic resource for forming projects, products, and engineering services. So Tyler, take it away.
All right, thanks Heidi, and thank you everyone for jumping on here for another quick Training Tuesday. It's always appreciative to be able to talk to you about our systems here at Simon's by Dayton Superior. And today, especially, we're going to be talking about another good one in DeckFast, a great system for repetitive flat slab structures, but it also has the ability to accommodate drop heads, drop beams, along with some other details. So as always, on these Training Tuesdays, this is going to be a quick overview of the system, very high level in the details, standard applications, but at the end, you'll see there's all kinds of details that you can get at online and through your sales representative. So let's dive right in. So DeckFast, it's a very fast, efficient, modular shoring system. So when I say modular, in this case, think of taking a form panel and putting it up horizontal for shoring up slabs, and that's what you have. You have a modular system made out of panels, standard panel sizes. There's only two primary components, panels and a post shores, and it uses primarily a 180 by 180 centimeter panel, or 6 foot by 6 foot. So you're setting, in that case, nearly 36 square foot at a time. The frames are made out of aluminum, extruded aluminum frames, so it's extremely lightweight and also easier to set in that case. The 180 by 180 panel weighs just over 100 pounds. It utilizes plywood inside the frames. So think of our Simply or steel ply panels. They have the frame with the plywood already in it. In this case, that's what this is. So the aluminum frames come with a plywood inset. So trying to greatly reduce or eliminate the additional plywood on site. Clear heights for the post shores from about 6'9" up to nearly 19 foot in heights, and it can support, thick concrete up to 22 inches. Taking a look at some of the standard panel. This is a 180 by 180 that's shown. Just some nomenclature here for you on the panel. You can see the frame all extruded aluminum. You've got a center rib there through the middle of the panel. That is only on the 180 by 180, but I wanted to show it here for you. You can see the sections of each one of these, the ribs and the rails as well. You've got a side rail along the right and left-hand side, and then end rails on the top and bottom, as well as cross members you can see throughout the panel. Again, it uses a 10 millimeter 5-ply birch for the plywood, and we attach that using a drive rivet. Here are some additional panels, all those standard panels, so you can kind of get an idea of what we're looking at here for the different sizes. You can see that main panel, 180 by 180, weighs just over 100 pounds. Then after you get into the smaller panels, you can see this system can really be set by a single individual as you get going out there in the field. The second main component to the system, as I mentioned, you have panels and you have post shores. So here are the two main post shores, the 350 and 550 post shores. Pretty common out in the industry. I'm sure most of you have seen these or used them in the past. You can see the details there. I won't go through the entire chart. The 350 ranges about 6.5 to 11.5 feet. You can see the load rating is about 46 pounds for that unit. The 550, a little bit taller, 10 foot up to about 18 foot. And it weighs, it's not showing there, but about 75 pounds. You may recall I mentioned that this can go up to about 19 foot in height. That's due to the bearings that you'll see here in a minute, which add a little bit of height on top of the post shores. The capacities that you see there are at 3-to-1 factor of safety. That's standard for using a single post shore. However, when we put them into a system application such as this, we get 2.5-to-1. So the actual ratings that we're able to design for and engineer for are a little bit higher than what you see there. Bearing and edge support bearing. So the bearing goes on top of the post shore, whether it's 350 or 550. You can see the construction there of those post shores with the bearing. So it's either a 350 or 550. If we use the 550, we're going to put a post shore sleeve support in there. That's just to accommodate for the larger hole in the 550, stabilize that bearing inside of there. That bearing is secured using a T-spring bolt. And you can see the two different styles there. The main bearing has the 4 prongs coming out of it. That actually fits inside, you can see in the picture there, inside an inside corner of one panel, and you can have 3 more panels on there, so they all come together with the 4 corners. The edge bearing is used in an application, which you'll see here in a minute, in a couple slides, that allows that panel to go flush up against an existing structure or a wall. An important feature to the 350 or 550 is the release pin. That you can see that release pin on the left, and then in the pictures below. It's extremely important on how this is put in and used. You can see the notches that are in the pin itself. That helps facilitate the stripping of the system after a pour. So it's extremely important that when this product is used on the post shore, that it's used in the proper manner. So you can see that the turn on the loop is actually up. That's one first look. And you need to make sure that prior to the pour, when this is set, that pin is all the way inside, so it's resting higher, right? It's not resting inside of those notches in the pin. If it's not, you're not going to be able to facilitate the strip and get the relief that you need to drop the panels. Here's a typical detail. I mentioned the edge support or the edge bearing. So this is right up against an existing wall, so you can see that it's using an edge bearing there with the post shore. Just allows you to get that panel all the way up against the wall. And we're going to secure these panels, especially during the startup, to that wall, either by a wood cleat or tie wire that's coming out of the existing wall. That just helps secure those first few panels as you start up with the erection out in the field. And these are typical details that we'll have in our prints as well. DeckFast system does not have a lot of accessories, but I'm going to highlight some of the key ones here. The post shore tripod. This is typically used where you don't have a wall that you can start up against, or some columns that you can start your panels with, or you're just looking for some additional support. It helps stabilize the post shore during the startup. The head support shoe, you can see it there. It's actually flipped upside down so you can see the two holes. But this is placed on top of a bearing where you may have to have wood infill around a column or some other structure. So in this case, you would flip this upside down. Those two holes would go into those forks, if you remember, coming out of the bearing. And then you're able to put lumber on top of this. There's a small hole on the right end of that you can see, and that you can secure whatever lumber that is with a screw or a nail into that support shoe. On the far right, obviously important for safety on the edge or perimeter of the system. This is a guardrail bracket. It locks into the underside of the panels, which you'll see here in a few minutes. Very simple to use, and then we'll place a guardrail post on top of that. Here's just some tripod details you can see here. It's important to note that these aren't really to be used, should not be used for lateral stability of the system. They're just there to help you support the system, the posts, as you start up. So they are not considered to be safe for lateral support. There's that head support shoe. So you turn it upside down, put it on top of the bearing, and allows you to put lumber on top of that. Again, standard details that we would have in our application prints that go out to the customer. There's a guardrail bracket that's underneath the panels, and then we'd put a guardrail post, and then the contractor supplies the actual lumber for the guardrail or the toe board at the bottom. There's some additional products. 180 bracing frame, again, some additional stability during startup or depending on the application. Maybe we don't have a starter wall again. Again, those will be in our application prints. The engineering team will specify those. Transverse beam that can go up to 90 centimeters of an opening, or about 3 foot. Allows the contractor to put three-quarter plywood. In this case, you can see in the picture there, it's going around a column. So it just helps frame up where, you know, our standard panels won't be able to make up that difference. Timber brace clamp, very typical use out in the field for us for lateral support on the system, where we've got to put some bracing or lateral support. So these will go around the column and then allow the customer to put their own lumber for that stability. We also have swivel clamps as well for like a 1.9 diameter tube. So let's talk about a little bit of the application and use in the field. So really, the setup of this system is really easy. You know, step one is set it, right? You've got a 180 by 180 panel. You set those up on the bearings from below. Step two is you swing it into place, in this case using the DeckFast erection rod. That also serves as a temporary support until step three comes in, which is you place the post shore, which ideally you want to preset that to the right elevation, goes up underneath and go get another panel, right? So you can see the speed that this can really go up, especially when you're setting 36 square foot at a time. It is pretty amazing to watch out in the field when you got a crew working on this, how quickly a deck can be put up. Here's a typical application or layout. A very important part that you'll see is where we have a starting panel placed. Now this is about ideal as you can get. You got two square walls coming in. It's perfect to put a starting panel in that corner. You know, I'm sure we never see diagonal walls or the lack of a wall for that matter, but in this case, you got a perfect situation. We're going to start that 180 by 180 panel. I mentioned before, we're going to cleat that to the wall for stability. Extremely important to set this first panel right, because everything comes off of that. You saw how it sets. It's just panel after panel after panel. So as with any type of construction, where you start and how you start is extremely important. So setting this first one right and getting it locked into those walls is important. Here's a cantilever application at the perimeter of a building. So these are, you can see how they're supported in that upper left. You can see a center rib, which is identified by the hashed lines in the middle of a 180 by 180 panel, so you can get an orientation of how that panel is. So you have the side rails going left to right. Those are going to be our load-bearing rails on how we show it in the application, how it's to be used. So you can see those going across left to right, and then the section, the cantilever out to the outside of the building. So we have a bracing frame, and then we've got a tie-down frame and a tie-down assembly. All of this will be detailed. You'll see in the next slide everything that we show. Extremely important that these are tied down properly before we put anybody out on the outside of this structure. I won't go through all of this, but you can see, you know, we take this extremely serious on how we detail this out. So you'll see this if you have a cantilever application, all of the details that we provide for ensuring that the frames are in place, the post shores are in place proper, panels are in place, and everything's locked down. Another application, not quite like a cantilever, right? This is maybe the end of a pour or the edge of the building. That's a little different structure here. So we've got a panel that extends out, and we're able to put a post shore there. We've got a guardrail bracket on the outside for safety on the outside, and then the contractor can come inside of there and put their own edge form inside of there to stop that pour. Next, we can accommodate for slope concrete anywhere up to 10% grade, but we are going to have, you know, additional lateral support. Obviously, in this case, we've got a tripod there to help just with the setup application. You can see a wood shim under there. We want to make sure that tripod is plumb to the world and keeping that post shore plumb as well. At the beginning, I mentioned, you know, this is an ideal system for flat slabs, but we can also accommodate drop heads around columns, drop beams. You can see a couple different ways of doing that here. We're able to put a panel in for the drop head on the left-hand side and support it in the standard application. On the right side, maybe weren't able to get a panel inside of there for whatever reason, but we can put up some head support shoes that you saw earlier, and the contractor can form the soffit there with their own lumber. Here's a typical application layout that you may see coming out to your contractor. You can see there's angles, there's drops, there's all kinds of different things within just this part of this structure, but wherever possible, you'll see 180 by 180. So you can see the clean look as much as we can possibly get throughout there. You can see the system can also accommodate, you know, different drops in the slabs, different edge looks, angles, and so forth. So while it's very good for your wide open, that rarely happens. So, but this system is able to accommodate more complicated structures as well. Here's some typical applications out in the field. So on the left-hand side, you've got some smaller panels up in the air supported by your bearings and post shores. On the right-hand side, on the bottom right there, those are 180 by 180s. You can see the center ribs in between the post shores as you go down there. You can see, you know, you're about 6 foot by 6 foot on the grid pattern for those post shores. Couple other applications. Top left is a good example of being locked inside of two existing structures. Pretty nice application there to use. You don't have to worry too much about lateral support there. But again, a wide open look there for DeckFast. On the bottom right, you can see some drop heads there at the column location. So we're using 180 by 180s again wherever we can, standard panel sizes, and then accommodating the drop heads around the columns. There's a little bit of lumber around the column there. So again, we use our standard panels around it much as we can, and then we start to use our accessories around the columns. Right-hand side, multi-story structure. Note the reshore beneath it. So the system, we have our drop head system. It allows for reuse of those shores. We will have to make sure, in this case, depending on the structure, obviously, and the engineer of record, reshore proper underneath it. Class 2 looks there, a couple more standard applications. On the top left there, great look of a pretty good sized slab going in there, along with steel ply columns. Always good to see a couple different systems being used on a job site. So that's a quick look at DeckFast. As always, with all of our systems, we've got a lot of additional support documents. We've got a DeckFast safety sheet that you'll see there. It comes out with our standard applications along with our standard shoring safety sheet. We've got application guides, brochures. We've got tech data sheets that are online as well for all of our different products. That one shows the 180 by 180 panel, but they'll have post shores, the edge bearings, all of those as well. So that's a quick look at another great system we have here in DeckFast, and I'll turn it back over to Heidi.
Thank you, Tyler. I actually didn't know much about this, so thank you for training me today. I think it's pretty cool to see the systems used with other systems, and that we try to do we have customized it, we try to do the best possible way with standards. That's what I kept hearing you say. So for anybody who has questions, go ahead and type them into the chat functionality in Zoom, and we'll get those answered. I do want to put in the blurb that, you know, Dayton Superior not only does Simons and just one system here that you see, but we are the leading provider of engineered solutions for the concrete industry, and we specialize in not only Simons forming, but accessories like tilt, precast, splicing for rebar, and any other kind of accessories, infrastructure. We also handle the chemicals. So while you guys are entering those questions that you may have, I want to thank you for joining us. Remember that we have these every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, today's presentation has been recorded, and we'll get that out on the Training Tuesday product page for all of the videos soon. So are there any questions? Oh, I got one. Yay! Okay, what is the maximum slope that DeckFast can use on?
So we typically stay under 10%. That was a slide that was in there. I didn't have it stated on there, but it's typically 10%. But when we get into slope applications, obviously we look at additional lateral support needs per code.
Great. Thank you, Drew. Do you have any other questions in regards to that? Just so you know, we do have a contact page out on DaytonSuperior.com. You can contact your sales representative and find out who that is by doing the contact page. I've said that 3 times now. And there's a map out there. All right, fantastic, Drew. Any other questions? Okay. Well, with that, I will leave you to it, and I thank you for joining today, and don't forget to join next Tuesday. Until then, bye now.